serious problem on our hands. That today we have a totally partisan body. It's like the BJP deciding who will be on the voters list, who will not be on the voters list. This exercise in a manner which was designed to exclude large sections of the Muslim population from the voters list, to virtually take away the voting rights of Muslims and reduce them to second-class citizens, primarily Muslims but also Christians, etc. Secularism had been declared to be a basic feature of the constitution, and therefore they could not amend the constitution in that way. Then they thought that they will do the same thing by bringing in NRC, National Register of Citizens. They tried to do it first in Assam, and the Supreme Court at least ensured that it would not be done on a communal basis. Exercise also did not yield to the BJP what they wanted. मतलब कि 50% से ज़्यादा लोग बिहार के उनके पास उन 11 दस्तावेज़ों में से एक भी नहीं था. अगर उस तरह से चलते तो 50% से ज़्यादा लोग बिहार के वोटर्स लिस्ट से बाहर हो जाते. टारगेटेड एक्सक्लूजन नहीं हुआ क्योंकि टीएमसी के कैडर्स बहुत वहाँ स्ट्रॉन्ग थे बंगाल में, और उन्होंने कोशिश कर करके जिसका भी भरवा सकते थे भरवा दिया enumeration form. This was sent by the Central Election Commission. They had got a software by which they could see who is a Muslim from the name, and they targeted more than 2/3, almost 70% people in this list of logical discrepancies were Muslims. I can guarantee that if the whole list is shown to me, at least 3 crore people would come under logical discrepancies. But they targeted 60 lakhs, those 60 lakhs which were Muslims and who they felt were voters for the TMC, those were targeted. Various illegalities that the Supreme Court also overlooked, and the Election Commission deliberately stage managed this exercise. How thoroughly illegal this exercise was. There is no provision, and it has never happened, that you ask people to fill up an enumeration form to get on the electoral roll. It means that you are preparing an electoral roll afresh. It has never happened after 1951. First time it is happening. The law says that when a law is struck down, all acts done under that law immediately go. Consequently, they go, which means that the appointment of this Gyanesh Kumar and the other election commissioners which has happened under this law will also go. Form 17C is the form in which you record how many votes have been cast in this polling booth, in this EVM. And this form is supposed to be given to all the booth level agents of the opposition parties, but the Election Commission says we will not put it out on our website. Why? Absolute dishonesty, and unfortunately the Supreme Court has been going along with this dishonesty. So you can put a software which will activate itself only after say 10 AM. Polling starts at 8 AM. From 8 AM to 10 AM it will function normally. From 10 AM, you can say that every second vote will go to the BJP. See, when the BJP government came to power, they said that they wanted a Hindu Rashtra, and they felt that they will amend the constitution to virtually take away the voting rights of Muslims and reduce them to second-class citizens, primarily Muslims but also Christians, etc. After some time they realized that secularism had been declared to be a basic feature of the constitution, and therefore they could not amend the constitution in that way, because even if they mustered 2/3 majority, they would not be able to change the basic structure because of the limitation placed upon constitution amending powers by the Supreme Court. Then they thought that they will do the same thing by bringing in NRC, National Register of Citizens. They tried to do it first in Assam, and in Assam what they did was they said that those people who want to be in the NRC will have to provide the following documents in order to show that they are citizens of this country. Now, unfortunately for the BJP, that exercise came to be monitored by the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court at least ensured that it would not be done on a communal basis. So what happened was, though a very large number of people got left out of the NRC in Assam, some 20 lakh people were not in the NRC because they were too poor to have any of the documents that was required for being in the NRC. But these 20 lakh had roughly 2/3 or 70% Hindus and 30% Muslims. So that exercise also did not yield to the BJP what they wanted. Now they have started this SIR, and the whole object of the SIR was that they will do this exercise in a manner which was designed to exclude large sections of the Muslim population from the voters list. So the object was to deny large sections of our Muslim population their voting rights and thereby reduce them to second-class citizens. This was the object. Now, how do they achieve this object? So the first part of the exercise, they said that all right, now we will require that everybody fills in an enumeration form. In India, after 1951, when the first voters list was prepared, even then nobody was required to fill an enumeration form. बिहार में सबसे पहले शुरू करा, और वो जो दस्तावेज उन्होंने मांगे उसमें हम लोगों ने बिहार में देखा कि the percentage of the Bihar population who had even one of these 11 documents which they had asked for was less than 50%. मतलब कि 50% से ज़्यादा लोग बिहार के उनके पास उन 11 दस्तावेज़ों में से एक भी नहीं था। और इन्होंने ये बोला कि अगर आप ये दस्तावेज़ नहीं देंगे और एन्यूमरेशन फॉर्म नहीं भरेंगे तो आपका नाम ड्राफ्ट रोल में भी नहीं आएगा। अगर उस तरह से चलते तो 50% से ज़्यादा लोग बिहार के वोटर्स लिस्ट से बाहर हो जाते। सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोल दिया कि नहीं, आपको आधार कार्ड भी कंसिडर करना पड़ेगा उन डॉक्यूमेंट्स में। अब आधार कार्ड ज़्यादातर लोगों के पास होता है, करीब 98% पॉपुलेशन के पास आधार कार्ड था। तो इस वजह से नाम तो बहुत सारे कटे ड्राफ्ट रोल में से, 10% बिहार के पॉपुलेशन कट गई ड्राफ्ट रोल से, क्योंकि उन्होंने एन्यूमरेशन फॉर्म भरा ही नहीं। अब किन लोगों ने एन्यूमरेशन फॉर्म नहीं भरा? उसमें से बहुत सारे गरीब, आपको बताया गया कि उसमें महिलाएं ज़्यादा थीं। बहुत सारे महिलाएं को ज़्यादा मुश्किल होती है, ज़्यादा कम पढ़ी हुई होती हैं बिहार में, कम से कम। उसका नतीजा ये हुआ कि बहुत सारे कमज़ोर वर्ग के लोग, गरीब लोग, माइग्रेंट लेबर उस ड्राफ्ट रोल में नहीं आ पाए। तो बिहार में काफ़ी नाम कटे, लेकिन ये कहना मुश्किल है कि टारगेटेड वहाँ मुसलमानों के नाम कटे। करीब 50 लाख नाम कट गए बिहार के रोल से, लेकिन टारगेटेड इतना नहीं थे। अब ये लोग आए बंगाल में। बंगाल में इन्होंने पहले तो यही बोला कि एन्यूमरेशन फॉर्म जो नहीं भरेगा उसका नाम नहीं आएगा, लेकिन थोड़ा सा तब तक ये अमेंडमेंट कर दिया कि दस्तावेज आपको तब देने की ज़रूरत है अगर आप अपना नाम या अपने पेरेंट्स का नाम, अपने फादर का नाम 2003 की लिस्ट में अगर दिखा सकते हैं, तब तो आपको ये दस्तावेज देने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, नहीं तो आपको इनमें से दस्तावेज देने होंगे। अब करीब फिर से बंगाल में भी 65 लाख लोग तो ड्राफ्ट रोल से निकल गए क्योंकि एन्यूमरेशन फॉर्म नहीं भर पाए। लेकिन उसमें भी टारगेटेड एक्सक्लूजन नहीं हुआ क्योंकि टीएमसी के कैडर्स बहुत वहाँ स्ट्रॉन्ग थे बंगाल में, और उन्होंने कोशिश कर करके जिसका भी भरवा सकते थे भरवा दिया एन्यूमरेशन फॉर्म। लेकिन इन्होंने सेकेंड राउंड में एक नई तरकीब निकाली, न्यू ट्रिक दे केम अप विथ। इट इज़ कॉल्ड लॉजिकल डिस्क्रिपेंसी। सो दे सेड they, out of the 7 crore people who remained on the voters list, they said that 60 lakh people have logical discrepancies. What does logical discrepancy mean? It meant if your name in one document is spelt in one way, in another document is spelt in slightly different way, one letter is different, or your father's name is spelled differently in two different documents, or the age difference between you and your father-mother is less than 15 years, or if the same parents have more than X number of children, they will all be categorized as logical discrepancies. And 60 lakh people were categorized as logical discrepancies. Now this was targeted. So this was sent by the Central Election Commission. They had got a software by which they could see who is a Muslim from the name, and they targeted more than 2/3, almost 70% people in this list of logical discrepancies were Muslims. Though in Bengal the percentage of Muslims was 27%, yet 70% of these people who were targeted by logical discrepancies were Muslims. And even the others, you can be sure that most of those, 90% of those who were targeted in logical discrepancy, their software was such, I can guarantee that if the whole list is shown to me, at least 3 crore people would come under logical discrepancies. But they targeted 60 lakhs, those 60 lakhs which were Muslims and who they felt were voters for the TMC, those were targeted. Now, in the Supreme Court said that all right, we will get some judicial officers to examine these cases. And they got some 400-500 judicial officers from 3-4 states. And they were told that these 60 lakh people you scrutinize in 3 weeks' time. And therefore they were given 1 or 2 minutes to decide each case, between 1 and 2 minutes to decide each case. And they decided in a very hurried manner and excluded 27 lakh people out of these 60 lakhs. And out of these 27 lakhs, 65%, two-thirds are Muslims and one-third are non-Muslims. And no reason was given for excluding these 27 lakh. No hearing was given to these 27 lakh people who were excluded. Without hearing, without reasons, their name was cut off the voters list. When this issue was raised in the Supreme Court said, firstly, it doesn't matter if you can't vote in this election, you will be able to vote in the next election. I mean, absurd reasoning. As if the right to vote in one election is such a trivial matter that you say, okay, all right, doesn't matter, no reasons are given, doesn't matter, no hearing is given, doesn't matter if people are, these claims are decided in 1 or 2 minutes. It doesn't matter if 27 lakh people are excluded, you can try your luck next time. And they said that we will now constitute appellate tribunals. Some 9-10 appellate tribunals were constituted and they were told to deal with the appeals against these exclusion of 27 lakh people. Now, obviously some 10-12 appellate tribunals, how many cases will they decide? So before the election they decided about 1,500-1,600 cases, and it was found that out of those 1,500 cases they decided, 96% appeals were allowed, which means that 96% of the people who were excluded from the voters list, out of these 27 lakhs, that they were found to be genuine voters. Therefore, their names were restored. But what happens to the remaining 27 lakhs? You have restored only 1,500 out of the 27 lakhs, and now you are saying that, well, their appeals will be decided over the next 10-20 years, and as and when their appeals are decided, their names will come back on the voters list. This is the attitude that the Supreme Court displayed in this SIR case. Now, what were the various illegalities that the Supreme Court also overlooked and the Election Commission deliberately stage managed this exercise? How thoroughly illegal this exercise was. First, there is no provision, and it has never happened, that you ask people to fill up an enumeration form to get on the electoral roll. It means that you are preparing an electoral roll afresh. It has never happened after 1951, first time it is happening. And secondly, you are telling people that you have to fill up this enumeration form, otherwise your name is automatically excluded from the voters list. First illegality. Then they say that you give one of these 11 documents. Most people, or a lot of people in this country, don't have these documents. How can you say? In fact, the Form 6 of the Voters of the Representation of People Act says that if you are a new voter and you want to get onto the voters list, you have to fill up a short form in which you have to provide some document, any document, not one of these 11 documents specified by the Election Commission. Bank document, ration card, Aadhaar card, gas connection, any connection, water connection, electricity connection, any document to show that you are residing in this place and that your age is above 18 years. That's all. For citizenship, the third is citizenship. For citizenship, you just make a declaration saying, I declare that I am a citizen of India, and if my declaration is false, I am liable to be prosecuted. That's all. So, Where is the question of asking people to produce one of these 11 forms, etc.? Election Commission kept saying that this exercise is being done, this SIR exercise, because there are a lot of illegal voters, there are a lot of foreign citizens who have got into the electoral roll. Rahul Gandhi showed that there are a large number of duplicate voters which are there in the electoral rolls. He showed that sometimes a person with the same photograph, 127 people with the same photograph are appearing in the electoral roll. 50 persons with the same demographic details, same name, same father's name, same address are coming in the electoral rolls at 50 places. The rule provides that you have to, Election Commission's manual provides that you have to use a deduplication software to detect demographically similar people and photographically similar people. They did not use this software at all, with the result that all these duplicate voters remained in the list. But they started this new exercise saying that we will now exclude people, those who do not fill up the enumeration form, those who do not provide this, and those which are found to have logical discrepancies, as they are called, something which was unheard of. It is not, logical discrepancy is not written anywhere in any rule, any election manual, etc. It was an invention of the Election Commission. But unfortunately, the Supreme Court has allowed this whole exercise to go on. And then 6 lakh people were at the last minute added in the electoral roll. Now the rules provide that every application for addition of a name or deletion of a name has to be put out on the website of the Election Commission on a daily basis, so that people can see whose name is sought to be added, whose name is sought to be deleted. That was not done. Never, not once, not till the election was any Form 6, Form 7 details put out on the Election Commission's website. They said that we will not even give the list, voters list, in a machine readable form. That means, you see, if you give it in a machine readable form, in a computer readable form, you can immediately detect photographically similar, demographically similar names. That 100 people have registered as 100 voters, though they are the same person. But they didn't do that. So, what we have seen in this whole process is a complete lack of transparency by the Election Commission. Various methods being used to exclude people, to targetedly exclude people, various methods being used to allow bogus voters to remain on the electoral list, various methods being used to include bogus voters from outside the states in the electoral list, and no transparency, so nobody can even find out easily as to who are the bogus voters. For that exercise that Rahul Gandhi did, it took him a long time, took their whole IT team several months to analyze the voters list in a physical form, because they were not in a machine readable form. So, which brings me, I'll deal with delimitation and women's reservation in a minute, but which brings me to a larger issue about the fairness and independence of the Election Commission. You see, the Election Commission in recent years, in the last 10 years, has gradually over the years become more and more partisan and less fair. Now it has gone to the extent that the observers sent by the Election Commission are seen to be people who are actively campaigning for the BJP. That this chief electoral observer which was sent by the election commission. He has become the chief advisor of the chief minister, appointed by the governor of the new chief minister of Bengal. Election commission today makes no bones about it, does not even try to defend itself on the charge. They are happy. They now thump their chest and say, Abhi to Supriya Srinath had tweeted saying ki some journalist told her who had met this fellow Gyanesh Kumar. He said, Tiger जिंदा है, हमने आपको चुनाव जिता दिया, हमने बीजेपी को चुनाव जिता दिया बंगाल में. I mean, this is the kind of people. So when we went to the Supreme Court about the appointment of the election commissioner, there was a long case pending in the Supreme Court, finally decided in 2023. In 2023, the Supreme Court gave a very fine judgment, constitution bench of 5 judges, saying that if you want to have free and fair elections in this country, you cannot have an election commission which is appointed solely by the government, which is what was happening. And therefore they directed that the appointments should be by a committee consisting of Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition and Chief Justice of India. But immediately after that judgment, they brought a new law. And that law was also brought and passed in a parliament session where 150 MPs of the opposition were suspended. It was passed without any debate, virtually without any debate, by just a voice vote, and it said that no, now the Chief Justice doesn't need to be there in the selection committee, now it will be a Prime Minister, another minister nominated by the Prime Minister and the Leader of Opposition. With the result that all these fellows, Gyanesh Kumar, etc., have been appointed despite the dissent of the Leader of Opposition. And the whole manner in which they do the selection, one day 200 names are given to the Leader of the Opposition, next day a short list of 6 names is given to him, and on that very day when that short list of 6 names is given, he is told, all right, we are making the selection today, you can give your dissenting note. So the whole thing has been reduced to a farce. We have challenged this law. This challenge is now being heard by the Supreme Court, and I hope and I expect that this law will also be struck down. But the striking down of this law by itself is not good enough. The law says that when a law is struck down, all acts done under that law immediately go. Consequently, they go, which means that the appointment of this Gyanesh Kumar and the other election commissioners which has happened under this law will also go. And it is incumbent on the Supreme Court to declare that these fellows will no longer be the election commissioners. Because in the absence of that, even if they strike down this law and this Gyanesh Kumar and the others remain in this manner and they remain for next several years, and even thereafter, you see, the new law which they will bring will have, all right, we are now including the Chief Justice, but we are also including one Speaker of the Lok Sabha and one Vice President who is the Chairman of the Raj Sabha. Those two are also people of the government. So how will that make any difference? The dominant control in appointment will still be of the government even if you include the Chief Justice. Of course, I am assuming that the Chief Justice will play a fair role. But today, the manner in which the judiciary is functioning, we don't know whether the Chief Justice will play a fair role or not, or whether the Chief Justice will just go along with whoever the government wants. But even if the Chief Justice plays a fair role, if they bring the Speaker, Lok Sabha Speaker and the Chairman of the Raj Sabha, they will still have a majority. So we have a very, very serious problem at our hands, on our hands, that today we have a totally partisan body. It's like the BJP deciding who will be on the voters list, who will not be on the voters list. They are deciding, this TMC has alleged that by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, by which time only 20% votes had been counted in Bengal, all their counting agents had been driven out of the counting centers. Now, if this is the manner in which elections are going to be held, and they do not even disclose Form 17C, you see, Form 17C is the form in which you record how many votes have been cast in this polling booth, in this EVM. And this form is supposed to be given to all the booth level agents of the opposition parties, but the Election Commission says we will not put it out on our website. Why? The booth level agents, sometimes they take them, sometimes they don't take them. Booth level agents are also thrown out sometimes of the polling booths. So why should the people are the main stakeholders in elections and democracy, why should the people not come to know how many votes were polled in this polling station? Why should the people not know? I mean, Mr. Parakala Prabhakar showed that in Andhra, some 37 lakh votes were cast between 6 p.m. and 2 a.m. and between 9 p.m. and 2 a.m. some several lakhs votes were cast. How can that be? And when we say that at least the CCTV cameras which are supposed to be there, which show how many people are waiting in the line at 6 p.m. when the polls close, that should be disclosed. They say no, we will not disclose this. On EVMs and VVPAT, what was our demand in the Supreme Court? Demand was very simple. Supreme Court has directed that there should be a paper trail. Every EVM should have a VVPAT machine so that there is a paper trail of the votes cast. Why can't they count the VVPAT slips? When ballot papers were there, long ballot papers, they used to be counted in less than 24 hours for the whole country. These are small slips with only symbols. Counting these will not take more than 2-3 hours. But Election Commission says, no, we will not count VVPAT slips. We will only rely upon EVM. Only 2% sample survey of the VVPATs we will do. And even when there is a discrepancy between VVPAT and EVM, that will not mean that there is a problem in other voting machines. If there is a problem in that voting machine, we will count the VVPAT slips of that. The VVPAT count will prevail. But we will not count VVPATs of other polling booths. Why? I mean, absolute dishonesty, and unfortunately the Supreme Court has been going along with this dishonesty. Our whole electoral democracy has been made into a farce. Form 20 figures are not being disclosed. Form 20 is the final voting figure, polling booth by polling booth. In this polling booth, in this EVM, so many votes were there, so many have gone to candidate A, so many to candidate B, so many to candidate C. Even they are not being disclosed. So, how are we to know that EVMs are not being replaced, that EVMs are not being manipulated? Because now there is a software which is put in the EVMs, and you can and every EVM has a timer. So you can put a software which will activate itself only after say 10 a.m. Polling starts at 8 a.m. From 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. it will function normally. From 10 a.m. you can say that every second vote will go to the BJP. Now, how will you find that out? Unless you count the VVPAT slips. But they are not willing to count the VVPAT slips also.